battle station was in the sick bay, stretcher bear.
Okay.
During the day, I was a lookout up on the foremast, way up high there. And now at night, when you couldn't see from up there, then they put some of us on. They had these huge searchlights, and we were on the searchlight, and the one we were on, were right behind the number 2 stack on the ship, and these damn fumes from the stack were coming right on. And if we had a night watcher, I think we'd spend the whole night there. I think 8 hours. In the morning, we'd come down from there, from all that soot and crap. We were just black, just all that crap all over us, and you could hardly breathe. So anyway, then the next month, of course, we got sunk, and we thought we were going to get shore duty like hell. When we finally did get back to the States, our new orders read, you will proceed to the Navy Yard, Philadelphia, for duty aboard the USS New Jersey. So I put the USS New Jersey in commission. She was built there. So after shakedown cruise and whatnot, right back out through the Panama Canal on the New Jersey and right back out into the Pacific again.
So this is the same band,
Same band, Band 26. Yeah, we're all together. And in the Pacific, I got orders, not the whole band, but I got orders. We had just retaken the Philippines, and I got orders to report to Washington, D.C. to the U.S. Navy Band. They had a vacancy. Old Herbie Spencer, one of the old timers in the Navy Band, he lost all his teeth or something, and there was a vacancy, and they sent for me. So I got home. I think I reported to the Navy Band in January 1945, just a few months before the end of the war, to the Navy Band, and I was skinny as hell. I got to look through a keyhole with both eyes, I think, but and they put me right on the first stand of in the tuba section, and here I hadn't been playing at all hardly, and they put me on the first stand with Phil Cadway. He was a fine tuba player. He had been in the National Symphony, so I stayed in the Navy Band for the next 20 years.
Yeah, well, that's a very interesting story. Now I know that after you got out, you were involved with the films down there for a while.
Well, yeah, after the Navy, when I retired from the Navy, for a couple of years, I went to a place called the Research Analysis Corporation. I had to have about every clearance you could possibly think of, highly secret ones, and I was a courier. I had a driver to drive us around. Usually we had to make a trip to the Pentagon every morning and every afternoon. And so after about 2 years there, Dutch and Ralph Eshelman called me, said there was a vacancy at the Naval Photo Center there.
Yeah.
So I joined them at the Naval Photo Center and became an editor, music and sound effects editor, and so on there. Now, and I stayed there now until '84. And in '84 I retired for good. I've been retired ever since.
Yeah. Now talk to me back through the Navy, the experience in the Navy Band. You got there. Brendler had the band then, or Benter still had?
No. I did have some experience with Benter, but that's while I was still in the music school.
Okay.
I don't know if I told you about that. Well, when I was in the music school, I had just gotten there from boot camp, and there was the Navy Band Symphony was going full speed then, and they had all these high-powered fiddle players from New York and everything, Oscar Shumsky and Greenhouse on the cello, big, and they were very busy with the symphony. Of course, Benter was still there, so they were sending me over to play tuba in the symphony. And here I was a scared kid, and one time we were playing Petrushka. Was that the Russian composer? Petrushka. Anyway, there's one part where there's a tuba and clarinet duet. The tuba in the ballet is a bear. Anyway, I had never seen this before, and I'm scared to death, Benter and all. And Benner stopped the orchestra. He says, "What's the matter with the tuba there? Let me hear a tuba there." And I stood up, and well, you stood up when he talked to you. You didn't lip off at all. I stood up. I said, "Sir, I have 16 bars rest." He said, "The hell you do. You don't even started Let Her Soul," and he started again. The same spot. I had rest there. He says, "What's the matter with the tuba?" He says, "They tell me you play good. Well, let's hear it." I said, "Sir, I have 16 bars rest there." He said, "The hell you do. Bring your part up here." So I brought my part up there, and he's looking at the score, and he's looking at my part. He says, "Well, you don't have it. Here's what I want you to put in there." And he pointed something in the score, and you put this in, you put that, and play that. And so I went back and sat down. He says, "Well, go back and sit down. You're better looking than your brother anyway." That was my experience with Benter. You know, before the rehearsal started, everybody's warming up and noodling away. But then when he came into the sail loft from his office there, things got as quiet as a mouse. Not a sound. And he'd come out there to where the podium was, on the podium, and he'd look around to the band, and he'd say to Joe Wynn was the drum major. He'd say, "Where's the so and so?" And Joe Wynn would say, "Oh, he's on sick leave, sir." So where's so and so? There was a young kid from the school. Also, he was a fine young fiddle player. He was a little short guy. His name was O.L. Smith. He was about 5 feet tall. Played. I don't think his feet even touched the floor when he's sitting. Anyway, Bender looked back there, and he says to the drum major, "Who's that midget sitting back there?"
He's a character.
Well, he was something. You know, he could send a man, just get rid of him immediately. You know, like in fact, Brash I think was just about ready to be sent to sea. Just about the time that when I was still coming over to play tuba when the Japs hit Pearl Harbor there. And I can still remember Benner's speech. He came out, he says, "Well, boys, it looks like we're in it now. I wish I could do this." And it was shortly afterwards when he got caught. I don't know if you've heard that story. Somebody called the Marine captain at the gate there and said, "If you'll stop Lieutenant Benter," he was lieutenant, "on the way out and make him open his trunk, I think you might find something interesting." To this day, I'm not sure who it was that did it. I think it was Brash, maybe. But anyway, they stopped him, made him open his trunk, and he had about 20 gallons of Navy paint in there that he was stealing. And he used to make guys from the band come out and work on he had a farm. And one of the guys from the band, Pete Van Roon, one of the tuba players who came from Holland, and another guy, Lanehart, played baritone sax. He had them working on his farm. He didn't give them any choice. He said, for the next 10 days, you're going to be on separate duty or something. He's working on his farm. One of them was driving a tractor. You didn't have any choice. You do that or else.
They didn't have any association with the band at all while they were out there.
Not when he wanted him on his farm. He was totally the boss. There's just no. By the way, there's another story. I think it's before my time, but they say it's true. The old timers. One of the guys in the band came in with a pistol. They were going to kill him. Going to shoot him. And I think he was drunk, but he did have a loaded pistol with him and his other buddies. I think he was a drummer. They saw that what his intentions were, and so they hustled him out of there. But he was going to shoot him. And if any guy got on his SHIT list, he could just hound him mercilessly. I could see on Japs hit Pearl Harbor, and it was shortly after when he got caught. Now, the reason he wasn't disciplined, because after Pearl Harbor, there was terrible criticism all over the country from Admiral Kimball and General Short getting caught with their pants down at Pearl Harbor. So they didn't want any more scandal, so they just said, just retire quick.
Yeah.
So that's when, for Charles Brendler, because he had a whole armful of hash marks. He had been in there ever since the band started in 1925, as it was the Washington Navy Yard Band then.
Yeah.
So they had they had a non-musician officer come there just to take charge, I think, for a couple of weeks or so, and then they finally made Brenda the leader. But by that time, I was on the Northampton over in the Pacific.
So he'd been sitting there playing clarinet.
Yeah, he was a solo clarinetist all those years. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when I was in high school at home, all the service bands, the Marine Band and the Navy Band and the Army Band, all had. There was no Air Force Band at that time. They all had live radio broadcasts, and I used to listen to all of them. So I can still remember, like some of the soloists from the Navy Band, Oscar Short, and Louis Goucher was playing. He was a drummer, a percussionist. Was a fine xylophone soloist and all things like that. So I knew about some of those things,
Now, was Herb over in the band before you?
Yes, Herb was came from this when he was in school, and they took him into the band. And there's a little bit. It's never been quite clear to me, but Herb was bothered with asthma, very bad. And when I read his diary after I read it after he died, I'm amazed he lived as long as he did. He was always scared to death the Navy would find out his asthma and give him a medical discharge. Well, anyway, one of the Navy band tours, I think they had him driving Benter's car or something. In fact, for a while, Benter had a 16-cylinder Cadillac.
No kidding.
Yeah, 16-cylinder. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know what the story was, but after a couple of years, I don't know if it was asthma or what the hell it was, but he left the band and he went to the USS California. Then.
So he had gone to the band from the school? Is
Yeah,
that right?
yeah. But, now this is all before the war. Then he went to the USS California. Now, this was still before the war.
Yeah. And
he left the California for shore duty shortly before the Japs hit, because the California was sunk during the Pearl Harbor attack. And he was sent to the Naval Air Station in Jacksonville. There were two of them at the time. Art Creasy was in one of those bands, and Herb was in the other. Yeah. I don't know if some of the other guys that were in Herb's band were Cliff Price, Scotty Lenore, trombone player. You remember him?
Yeah. All three of them.
And I'm trying to think of the guy that lost all his hair. There was one guy who was just a skinhead. Oh gosh, Harold Foltz was in that band too.
Okay.
That band leader they had in Jacksonville, his name was Painter, Red Painter, and he was very unpopular. In fact, he and Cliff Price. Painter challenged him. He says, "Come on outside. We'll settle this outside." And the band started to get up to watch it, and he said, "You'll stay there." So they went outside, and Painter and Price got in a fight. A couple of minutes later, Painter came in. He was a bloody mess. Cliff Price beat hell out of him. And strangely enough, this is the way I heard the story, that Painter says to the boys, here he was all bloody and disheveled, and he says, "Boys, I've been a horse's ass. I'm sorry." And this is like that's what he said. He apologized. I knew Cliff Price pretty well and his wife Jenny.
Well, I had him up in Philadelphia.
I know a lot of people didn't like him.
I know.
Yeah.
A number of people, he had a problem with some folks.
Yeah, yeah.
Whenever I get Sam Anzalone on here, he broke his fist on a locker at sea in Clark's band.
Yeah.
I never had any problem with
Yeah.
Price.
Well, I know a lot of people didn't like him because I only knew him through Herb,
Yeah.